Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Day 2 of Tech Innovation 2021. My name is Alvin Un, and I am your host. The upcoming program will be on digging deep to meet our future food needs, with our speakers sharing their views on new technology and food alternatives that could be more effectively addressing the food security and supply chain challenges. Now, should you have any questions during the presentation, please type them in the Q&A feature on your screen. We will answer as many questions as we can during the panel discussion. Simon Caspersen from Space 10 will be letting us in on his lab's research on alternative ingredients, technological innovations, and uncharted gastronomic territories. Let's hear what tomorrow's menu might look like from him. Simon?
Hi everyone, my name is Simon, and it's such an honor to be here, and I love the themes of the conference, so important, so it's really a privilege to be part of it. So let's get this presentation rolling. I will quickly share my screen, and then we can start. A quick intro. Simon Caspersen. I'm coming from Space 10. We are a research and design laboratory. We're based in the heart of Copenhagen, and we are on a mission to create a better everyday life for people and the planet. But despite being based in Copenhagen, we have also popped up in cities around the world, like New York, London, Shanghai, Nairobi, New Delhi, just to name a few. And hopefully we could pop up in Singapore soon. We are fully funded by IKEA, a rather successful home furnishing company. So why the heck am I invited here to talk about food? Well, at Space 10, we actually don't start with IKEA's current business as our starting point. We are looking at the big macro trends that will impact most of us. So from the societal shifts, the environmental shifts, and the technological shifts, and see if we can find some patterns in that chaos to design a more desirable future. And food is one of those themes that have caught our interest, and I guess also the reason why I'm invited today. What most people don't think about, I guess, is that IKEA is actually quite a big player within food. IKEA has 1 billion people visiting their physical store each year, and 1/3 of those actually comes for the food. So that's quite a lot of meatballs that is being sold. But Space 10's exploration within food actually didn't start because of that. It started 6 years ago with a workshop with Copenhagen Institute of Interaction Design. Really cool school. I urge you to check it out. But here we explored how we can make a more sustainable lifestyle intuitive. And 2 students came up with this idea of a smart faucet that would start to glow when you've used too much water in the shower. At first, a great idea. Our dwindling supplies of fresh water is truly a global issue. 1 in 3 people globally do not have access to safe drinking water, and half the world's population experiences severe water scarcity at least 1 month a year. So such an important problem for Space 10 to look into. But despite a great idea, we needed to ask ourselves if our daily showers are really the right problem to tackle, or should we focus elsewhere? We realized that a single hamburger requires over 3,000 liters of water to produce. That is equivalent to 3 months of showering. And at Space 10, we don't really believe in cold shower solutions, and especially not if it doesn't fix the problem. We also realized that 70% of our water supplies is used for agriculture. So maybe we shouldn't look at our showers, but how we actually produce our food if we wanted to tackle this issue. On top, our food industry also accounts for 1/3 of all greenhouse gas emissions. 1/3. That's crazy. So we realized our food systems are a massive driver of the climate emergency and have become a problem for all people on the planet. And it's not to be completely depressing today, but actually we will soon welcome an additional 2 billion people to the planet. So we can't just scale up our current food production system. And if we break it down, then we can see that our appetite for meat and dairy is really at the heart of the problem. So what do we actually do about it? I guess that is the big question that we're exploring here today. We skipped the idea of the smart faucet or writing a big, thick research report nobody was going to read. Instead, we decided to kidnap IKEA's iconic meatball. And we used the meatball shape and size as a canvas to illustrate more environmentally friendly protein sources than meat. And we looked to spark conversations about more efficient ways to produce healthy and nutritious food. So today I want to introduce you to 3 of those trends we looked into. First of all, I want to introduce you to the crispy bug ball. And I mean, eating insects is common to cultures in most parts of the world. But what we learned is that insects are celebrated by chefs for their taste, for their low ecological footprint, by environmentalists, and is recommended by health scientists for their nutritional content. So at first, a great alternative source of protein to look into. And the UN even recommended edible insects as a resource to combat world hunger. So we involved some great chefs, and then we set up our own test kitchen in our lab in Copenhagen. And if your mother has ever told you to not play with your food, she's absolutely wrong. We started making meatballs, of course, using insects and beets. We also served it with mashed potatoes and lingonberry jam in the true IKEA spirit. We figured out that this was actually a really delicious alternative to meatballs. I guess you just have to trust me on this one. We also created a beef patty made of mealworms and beets. And the result is actually quite remarkable. It uses 80% less water than a traditional beef patty. It requires 90% less land to produce, and it emits 90% less greenhouse gas. So we can actually produce burgers and meatballs at a fraction of the cost for the planet, making insects a viable addition to our current menu. But of course, we can't get anyone to change their eating habits unless the alternative is more attractive and delicious. So we had to invite people in. We wanted to really serve them a potential slice of the future to get some feedback of how people felt about it. And one big lesson is that food is not rational. Despite a lot of curiosity, some people were quite hesitant and skeptical about eating insects. So we realized we can't just appeal to the intellect and the taste buds, because food is emotions, it's a culture, and we just have to face the facts that many people find insects disgusting. But let me ask you this: if you had never seen a shrimp in your life before, would you think it looked delicious? To me, it really looks like insects, to be honest. But we eat shrimps, and I eat shrimps because we're used to it and because it's really delicious. So I believe we all have to become a little bit more familiar with the unfamiliar and make sure we don't miss out on some great food experiences. Next up in our little journey here in our test kitchen is the lean green algae bowl. And microalgae, or spirulina, actually contains more protein than any other food source, including meat. It contains more iron than spinach, and it's just packed with vitamins and minerals. And what's more, microalgae are actually the fastest growing plant organism in the world, capable of doubling in size within a day. And it can literally grow anywhere. It doesn't take up large amounts of land and can even grow on non-arable soil. So we can grow it quickly and almost anywhere. And what's more, algae needs sunlight and CO2 to grow, which means it not only sequesters carbon dioxide, but it produces fresh oxygen as a result of growing. So it cleans the air in the whole production. And declaring microalgae to be the food of the future isn't that futuristic, actually. In 1974, the United Nations described microalgae as, quote unquote, the most ideal food for mankind. So why isn't it everywhere, you can ask? Well, the challenge with microalgae is that microalgae tastes like microalgae. So we developed multiple recipes using spirulina and really see how we can make it taste delicious. One of them is this one, the dogless hot dog, which is a veggie dog made with spirulina enriched bread, which means that this hot dog actually contains more protein than a regular dog and is much more nutritious and healthy than a regular dog. And we didn't stop there. We actually created our own bioreactor to grow our own spirulina, both in small scale, as you can see it here, but also on larger scale. We call this the Algae Dome, and it's developed with 3 architecture students and is our prototype of a 4-meter high bioreactor, which can actually grow 100 kilos of microalgae a day. So besides using algae for human food, we could also consider it for animal feed, which today is fortified with soy. And as we know, soy requires vast amounts of land, particularly in Latin America, which has severe impact on our ecosystems, the wildlife, the soil quality, and the climate as a whole. And in fact, which is pretty crazy, cattle ranching drives 80% of the deforestation in the Amazon. So say hello to microalgae, which could actually help reduce deforestation by replacing soy protein in livestock and poultry feed while actually cleaning the air. So what we intended with the Algae Dome was to trigger conversations about how we can grow large amounts of nutritious food, reduce our impact on the planet, and use biology to solve some of the world's biggest problems. So we saw a lot of potential in microalgae or spirulina. Next up, and the final food trend, is the Urban Farmers Bowl. And I think all of us in the room knows that shifting to a vegan diet is the single most impactful thing we can do as individuals to limit our impact on the planet, especially if we combine it with eating more local and seasonal produce. But of course, I don't believe that the responsibility for tackling the climate emergency should be put on individuals. So we were really curious about how we can grow food closer to where it's actually consumed. So together with 2 architects, Signe Lindholm and Mads Ulrik Husum, we created the Grow Room, which is a spherical garden that enables people to grow greens right on their footstep. We exhibited the prototype in Copenhagen, and it created a lot of excitement. And soon we received requests from Asia, Australia, the US, and all over Europe about exhibiting the Grow Room. However, it doesn't really make sense to me to ship this 4x4 meter structure around the world to promote the idea of local production of food. So we were in a bit of a dilemma. We wanted to exhibit it around the world, but we didn't want to ship it around the world. So we actually chose to open source it. And that means that we made the design files freely available for anyone to download. You can then visit your local makerspace, which has a CNC machine, and they can automatically cut out the pieces you need for you. All made in one material, so it's easy to recycle, but also makes it really affordable. And you can even assemble it without the need of glue, nails, or screws. Everything is basically just interlocking the wood pieces using traditional wood joinery. And voila, you could create your own spherical garden in your own neighborhood. And what was amazing was that we saw that 30,000 people downloaded the grow room in the first months of the release. And we saw it pop up in cities around the world. And here we see it in Sydney, Australia. However, the grow room is not really the solution to our increasing demand for sustainable food, at least not alone. So we started playing around with hydroponic farming. And for you who don't know what hydroponic farming is, basically thanks to artificial lights, hydroponic system, and computerized automation, we can create indoor vertical farms within our cities, which allow us to grow fresh, healthy, tasty, and chemical-free greens and vegetables all year round. The plants grow up to 3 times faster than in a field and uses 90% less water than in a traditional field. So this method also produces much less spoilage and requires significantly less space compared to traditional farming. So these systems are really viable for cities and much more sustainable when powered by clean energy sources. And how it works is that you grow your greens in nutrient-enriched water instead of soil. And by using artificial light, you can basically create the perfect spring day every day. But we also asked ourselves if people would find this growing method too sci-fi. So we piloted a vertical farm and salad bar during London Design Week. And salads were grown indoors, locally and vertically, and basically presenting hyper-local food, if you will. But we wanted to test how people actually responded to this. And luckily, it turned out that people really loved it and were very attracted to this solution. People completely got it. Not only can hydroponic farming ensure that our food travels shorter distances, which much less water and space needed, but it actually also is much fresher, which means that it's more tasty, healthy, and nutritious. So these are some of the dishes on at least Space 10's menu of the future. And if you're curious about how to make it, you can actually pick up our cookbook, Future Food Today, which is packed with a lot more recipes. Also, Space 10 explores a lot more than food, from architecture to advanced technologies to clean energy. So if you're curious about learning more about either our explorations within food or some of the other topics that we are looking into, please connect with us. Connect with us on Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, or sign up for our newsletter. But finally, I just want to say we were not the only ones who have been busy in the kitchen. IKEA has recently introduced a lot of vegan and vegetarian options in their restaurants, from meatballs to hot dogs, even plant-based ice cream. IKEA has also piloted hydroponic farms in selected stores where IKEA can grow its own super fresh food right where it's served. Even the food waste from the restaurant is turned into nutrition for the plants. So really trying to close the loop on that. And finally, I just want to say that we don't believe that eating insects or microalgae is the silver bullet that solves everything. We are facing a huge systemic problem, And the solution to this will be a combination of a lot of different initiatives, from new ways of producing and distributing food, transitioning to a clean energy system, new technologies, new ingredients. We simply need to be a lot smarter and more efficient about the way we produce our food going forward. We need to drastically reduce food waste, as we could actually feed 3 billion people with the food that we waste every year. And we also need to be much more open-minded about food diversity as our global population grows and climate change cuts into the water and land that's available for farming. So I'm looking so much forward for the rest of this conference. And I think it's important to remember that the most important decade in human history has just begun. The challenges that we face as a species are quite huge and complicated, but luckily we have never been better equipped to actually tackle those. So we are forced to rethink our entire food system, but I'm stubbornly optimistic, and I believe that the pioneers of today will be the market leaders of tomorrow. Thank you for listening in, and don't forget to connect with us if you're interested in either learning more or explore something together. Thank you. Have a nice conference.
Thank you, Simon. Following Simon Caspersen's interesting presentation, Shan from Food Warrior will speak on how design thinking can empower more people to embark on the sustainability journey and tackle local food challenges. Over to you, Shan.
Hi everyone, my name is Shan, and I'm the founder of Food Warrior. And for the past 3 years, I've co-founded Ugly Food and I've been working on it. So today I'll be sharing more about my journey through ugly food and how design thinking came to play. So something about myself, this is my Food Warrior IG account, Kind Food Warrior. Personally, I value self-awareness about ourselves and also the relationship we have with food, between food and our environment, and also food and our own health. Because food is something that we eat every single day, and food has taken a lot of resources, and food production has evolved across the years. So for Food Warrior, the key slogan we have is really making you the food warrior that the world needs. So it's really creating a community, and we focus on 3 key areas: wellness of mind and body, which is focusing on ourselves because change starts from within; sustainable food sources; and food waste reduction. These 2 key themes are what I view important for food sustainability, because right now methods of large-scale food production is not sustainable at all. And what we can see from the picture is, one is algae bloom caused by too much fertilizer being washed into freshwater bodies, and also secondly, large-scale deforestation of Amazon forest, rainforest, because of crops, land needed for crop production to feed the livestock, and not to feed ourselves. So how did I start in this journey is really through my university days. So I started off as a student project within SUTD. So it's called Design Odyssey Program, which is something like a CCA, whereby we get to choose the social issues or things that I want to focus on and use design thinking to solve it. And for myself, I decided to explore more in terms of food waste. And because food is personal to myself, because that's when I realized that as we grow older, food is something that we really need to maintain our health. And through Design Odyssey program, we actually focus on design thinking, and we start off not by looking at solutions, but really looking at the ground and understanding more about what is happening on the ground. So we did observation and user studies on different stakeholders across supply chains as much as we can. So these are some pictures that we have. So wholesalers and wet markets, food stores, and also local farms. And what we found out is that for local farms, they have their own ways to reduce their food waste, because anything that is not consumed is actually just returned back to the composting area that they already have. But for wholesalers, and they usually do not have much wastage as much as food stores, because a lot of times they will just skim through the produce and then they will actually just send to their food stores directly, unless majority of them is not deemed consumable. So on a food store level, this is a picture that I took. Is hidden at below the table, and these are actually meant to be thrown away after a week. So these are all the blemished items, either due to customers mishandling or due to logistics mishaps. And all this, according to the uncle, he said that no one will want to buy them because no one wants to consume this kind of fruits and vegetables. So is there ugly produce in Singapore? The answer is definitely yes. And this is different from the ones that we see in other countries that are more of natural or looking ones, because those odd looking ones do not fit into the criteria to import within Singapore. So the ones that we see usually is more of blemishes or slight scars on the surface level. And where are they? It's usually at the heartlands and also supermarkets level. So why is there such wastage? Yes, I understand that there are such fruits and vegetables, but the key reason is because of our own perception of them, and how Singaporeans' view of this produce is really because we have little knowledge of agriculture and the history of agriculture. So a lot of us do not have the first-hand exposure to this kind of large-scale farms. Across history, what happens was there was this creation called pesticides, and pesticides actually made a lot of fruits and vegetables much more perfect looking because of that. But way back before pesticide was even present, a lot of us people actually embrace all this imperfection because these are just natural. You can just cut away the blemish part and still consume them. But because of the pesticide, a lot of us, when we go to supermarkets, we just form the misconception that perfect is normal, not perfect, spoiled, cannot eat, avoid. So this is something that was present within Singaporeans. So we drew some inspiration across different initiatives across the world, and one that stuck to my mind is really this initiative called Feeding the 5,000, whereby it's public feasts to showcase the delicious solutions to food waste. So what they did was gathering different type of food that was otherwise thrown away due to different reasons, and then making a feast while sharing more and raising awareness to the people who are consuming it. So it's a whole experience that we're talking about, where people experience it, consume the food, they are convinced themselves because they tasted it themselves. So that's something that we really want to bring across. We really want to bring across that blemish produce is still can be consumed, and we want you to consume them. So it's about changing perception, and we did through two key methods. One is through our products, and one is through activities such as our services. So we created aesthetically pleasing and also tasty products. And this case is cold pressed juices, because 3 years ago we know there was a trend in cold pressed juices, and also on sorbet popsicles because of the trend of demand in dairy-free alternatives. So what we do at a booth is usually we do not tell them about our cost first. We more present different cups of our juices and let them try and give us feedback of our juices. After they say, oh, it's very delicious, it's sweet, oh, you sure there's no sugar in it? Then we will reveal to them that actually all these are made from blemish produce, and that's when they are convinced because they have already tasted it, they know it's delicious, and then we reveal to them about the truth. So it's really through this experience that we want to bring to more consumers. At the same time, within schools, instead, our juices, we actually just cut up and also ask students to pen down the taste of the fruits. So this is at a primary school, and then these are some of the notes that they have written. I know it's a bit small, so let me read to you some of them. Okay, so Renee said that the apple was sweet and tasty, and some of them, Jiale was say sweet but a little bit sour. So all these are just things that the students written down, and we also pass it to the school, so to actually educate children that all these are still good to eat. And yes, they look a bit blemished, but they still taste as good as the usual one you find in the supermarket, which is prettier and more perfect. So some of the insights that we found out along our way of advocating for blemish produce to be perfectly edible and safe to eat is about this new issue about good food still being thrown away. So good food is being thrown away, and it's caused by over importation, and that's when we start to liaise more with also higher up on the supply chain with importers, because that was the common problem that they face, which is over importation. So with that, we realized they have a huge variety of fresh produce we are talking about. It's too much for us to actually brainstorm on new products to sell, and instead we decided as a team to just sell this surplus as fresh produce because of different reasons, and one of them is they are still relatively long shelf life that our consumer can still keep. Secondly, we can pass on the savings to our consumers for this fresh produce so that they do not need to spend as much on their groceries. And third is they do look very appealing. So more or less our consumers will always ask us, are you sure this is ugly food? Then we have to explain to them, yes, we are called ugly food because we started off wanted to change perception on that, but along the way we also realized that these surplus are being wasted. So some of the highlights of this journey through ugly food, and through catering our user needs through our products and services, is that we got featured on Clean and Green Singapore and NEA, and we also realized the power of government agencies in facilitating such changes, because they make us look even more credible and giving us a bigger voice to a wider audience. And that's also how we reach out to new customers and also new suppliers that we work with currently. And then we also got recognized on Bumblebee Summit and also Eco Business Youth A-List for the past 2 years. And I also like to highlight one small initiative that is kickstarted, which is very heartwarming, which is about getting the community involved in this process of reducing wastage beyond food. Because a lot of times when we pack our food, fresh produce, we need to pack them in containers, and we do not want to use single-use plastic. So instead, we get community to donate to us their food packaging, especially during the circuit breaker. A lot of them are using takeaway, so they have a lot of these takeaway containers. So you use these to store our loose items, and also use these to store the fragile fruits such as peaches, mangoes, which usually come to us in loose trays and cartons. At the same time, we also get our customers to pass us reusable bags. So it's a new way of thinking about how we want to issue packaging, because we get our customers to pass us reusable bags because we have a lot at home. I believe some of y'all might be nodding your head. You have a lot at home and you don't know what to do with them because we don't want to throw away. So instead, they pass it to us and we actually reuse them. And some of the key challenges we face is firstly because of COVID. That's when we launched our e-commerce store, and it's really hard for us to have there was a clear gap between us and the customers this time around. And it's very hard to deliver our message to them directly. So some, yes, we do mention on our website that some of them might be blemished because of certain imperfections, but some of them might not be, might be a bit shocked at the extent of blemish, and they still have the misconception. And a lot of times we have to do some refunds because it's just too hard for us to communicate through a phone call to educate about such issues. And looking beyond, for Food Warrior, what I hope to do next is really about space design, encountering more design thinking, and last but not least is encourage people to think bigger as a community, what we can do and consider bigger. I'd like to end off my presentation with this short quote, that there is no power for change greater than a community discovering what it cares about. And with that, thank you.
Thank you, Shan, for that very enlightening presentation. Next, we have Andy Goh from Rplus, who will show the successful application of design thinking for underserved farming communities across Asia. Underserved farming communities across Asia, such as those in Cambodia and Vietnam, and how they can be part of a larger sustainable ecosystem. Andy?
Hey, hi, warm welcome to everyone, different countries, different time zones, and we are here today, and I would like to share with you our hotel brand. But more than just a hotel brand, we would like to share with you an idea, an important idea that links several components together. All right, imagine if we could disrupt real estate market, the way we holiday, the way our food is produced and sold, and not disrupt it for the sake of disrupting, but for good and for a good reason, benefiting us and many others along the way. All right, so let's reimagine life for the better. A brief history about myself. I'm an architect, headed up many countries before, and I've been traveling for the last 20 years and understanding Asia a bit. And as the executive for Jonah Journeys, an investment holding company, We team up with local partners to become the developer in whichever country that we go to. Here are some hospitality projects I've completed over the years. We have used major brands across Southeast Asia. And as much as we build up our knowledge and know-how with working with hotel brands, we will do the same for the food sector. Some farms I'm working with include some in Taiwan, Singapore, and Malaysia. Just to share with you some of the awards we've won, we became a developer right after 3 years ago. We completed one of the projects we did is we completed a mall within a very short 12 months. So imagine if we can do this for the construction industry, what about the farming sector? All right, what can we possibly do? All right. This was done in a short span of 12 months, this mall, from concept, not just to completion, but fitting out and operation. All right, it was done in a kit of parts, shipped from different parts of the land, from neighboring countries, and assembled. And now the locals get to enjoy Starbucks, KFC, bubble tea, and their local favorite brands. All right. We went on to acquire 43 hectares of prime real estate. And that's where we just 3 minutes away from the national park, from the airport. And this has 1 kilometer of coastline. And we are developing a resort town there. All right. We have engaged different brands of hotels. But moving ahead, we have considered our own brand, which brings all of us here together. What is Rplus? Rplus is respectful, reciprocal, refined, rare, and more. All right. It's a simple letter R, but let's see what it all stands for. Our brand vision is to be a trusted partner for holistic, engaging experiences and offerings to enable and uplift your soul and connect you to community and nature. Here's a brand perceptual map. I would say Rplus is highly localized and highly authentic. And we'll touch a lot about why localized and local means a lot to us, as opposed to a brand that engineers the experiences and is globalized in a uniform way. Just to give an idea of our price point, again, other brands, but yet I'll explain later how the entry point can be very easy. All right. And now the portion that I would like to share with you all is the Rplus model. And Rplus destination begins with hospitality. We are not shy about it. We don't say we are the best food company. We are not the best farm management company, grower, because all right, we start the Rplus ecosystem with just hospitality as an easy entry point. So we design a resort in a spectacular location, assemble 50 units, luxury, complete with front of house, back of house, reception, pavilion, spa, full-size pool, outdoor, indoor, rooftop dining areas. All right. Not forgetting back of house areas, critical to an off-the-grid location such as farms, cliff sites, and anywhere that you can think of. All right. So this is where it gets a bit more interesting. All right. Agriculture. So we also develop and own the farm. So as much as the hotel is in a spectacular location, the hotel can be in a spectacular location in our farmland. All right. And we will engage the local farmers to supply fresh produce to the hotel's F&B. And the hotel's waste goes back to the farm, forming that resource loop we spoke about. All right. Food processing. More than just forming a resource loop between the hotel and the farm, we have gone further to set up factories to process our produce, adding value to our products and then selling them to our retail shops, both physical and online. Our products from the retail shop then goes back to our hotel, not just in packets, but forms the dining menu. And with that, completes our loop. And when we multiply this by many more hotels and many more new farms, more processing plants, and extend our retail reach, we have created a sizable ecosystem but more importantly, inclusive in nature. We welcome many to participate at different levels, strengthening the ecosystem, doing good. So our social impact is great. All right, each hotel affects 150 local lives. The farms affects many families. The retail shops affects thousands. And we will just spend a few slides on FarmCube. As much as we have Rplus hospitality operations to take care of the hotels, we have FarmCube to take care of the farms and factories. Some of the rice that we have harvested in the last 4 years, high yield seed rice, mechanization, as simple as tractors through the countries we are operating, even mechanization is a far improver of efficiency. We are developing modular on-site processing factories. Millions of mangoes are wasted each year because they don't get to the processing plant, cross the borders. We are trying to bring this module, a drying mango module, modularized and brought to site. So instead of bringing the food to the factory, we're bringing the processing parts of the factory to the farm. And that ends up in improved standard of hygiene, products that we can now put on the table and retail shelves. We have to understand the rice process of every product that we put out there to understand how it is processed, how it is best manufactured. So our current farming and retailing network. So we started with farms in Cambodia, and that was rice. We also had in Taiwan, 4 hectares of Sanxingchong. This is your scallion or your spring onions that grow at least 60 to 80 cm tall. So we planted, processed it, and supplied it to a large supermarket chain across Taiwan. We also went on further to retain its value and made them the scallion pancakes and chopped convenience packages so that the everyday Taiwanese family could purchase them in small packets. Even things like that, it's worth doing for us. So nearer back home, we process cashew nuts in Cambodia through a local factory, but then we have shifted our operations now to Vietnam, where we take charge of head to tail. We continue to source locale-based specialties and make it accessible to many through our model. So these are just some of the food products we've come out with within the last 1 to 2 years. So we've got soft brown rice, we've got coconut candies, we've got cashew nuts processed in different forms, with skin, without skin, salted, unsalted. All right, just to name you a few. Let's catch a glimpse of how all this looks, all right? So starting from hospitality, our hotel is planned among the endless and these paddy fields outside Phnom Penh on the way to Siem Reap. So we've got at least 800 hectares of rice fields. We believe this would be a great location to demonstrate the ecosystem at work. So amidst the paddy fields and the buffalo, we find our hotel block, single linear accommodation block, 50 suites of luxury stay, sitting ever so lightly on the paddy. So the footprint of the building is minimized. So both in summer and in the rainy season, we give a different experience of the resort, as they can even canoe around the whole facility if they wish. Enjoy the full facilities of the resort, idling in the natural setting, complete with the full-length swimming pool, cantilevered rooms that's got stargazing panels on top, and look, it's a pool in the middle of nowhere. And these moments are moments you can look forward to when this resort opens. Rooftop dining gives guests full panoramic views, and even the back of house are accessible to guests to understand the true workings of a hotel. All right. Interiors fully fitted out, and each interior speaks of the locale, plant-based room, facilities, the finishes reflect the locale. Sights, sounds, touch, smell, our 6 senses, our emotion, all those are evoked. And look at the expanse of land we own and where we plant our first resort and demonstrate the ecosystem. So we have rice derived from the fields that will go full circle, and now we're going to introduce 2 more crops in Cambodia, coconut and mango. 2 more hotels, 2 more processing plants, all planned to become part of the ecosystem. So earmarked for next quarter is another location. It will be in Taiwan, where we are looking to put up modules in the form of villas to deal with the site surrounds, then bring out the best of the place. And this location is halfway up to Taiping Shan, and is endowed with the largest watermelons we have seen. So each watermelon there is about 10 to 12 kilograms. With the Rplus model, the fruits and vegetables become part of the resort's menu. So Rplus will co-manage the farm operations, if not own the farm, investing where appropriate. Staff and families of the farm will benefit from the resort. The produce will be further developed into higher value foods through R&D and sold both in retail and back to our ecosystem. So again, this is an illustration of the Rplus model. So coming up also this year is a Rplus in construction in the midst of the mangrove in Rim Beach, Sihanoukville, Cambodia's only coastal town. A resort in the middle of Myanmar's first winery was in our pipeline. All right, and again, picking up special locations that would demonstrate both hospitality and farming and bringing this produce to greater heights. So in search of a location among the turtles in Kota Kinabalu, and we will expand this module hospitality concept across Asia. You can join as members, you can join as owners of different parts of the farm. Everything is purchasable. Why we're doing this is so that you can participate at different levels, even from a member that will give access to our revenue and profits from 4 different business units to owning even a farmland or becoming a shareholder of the company. All this is made accessible through our direct sale model. So we hope to increase our global network, and just an app here, just in the making, that will bind everything together. So the Rplus mobile app is for members or for friends, and it's on a simple level, it's a simple booking app for your rooms. You can choose a unit, the unit that you prefer to stay, continue with how many room nights. But more than that, you will see in the next screen that we are allowing members to even allocate where they would want their points to be distributed, whether it's through the hotel, the farm, the manufacturing food site, or the retailing site. All right, so that is a choice that members can have, and a sense of empowerment that, look, you can make a difference. All right, and with that, it's our invitation to join us and to build a better way of life for life. Thank you.
Thank you, Andy, for that very inspiring presentation. Now, for the upcoming panel discussion, we would like to encourage you to submit your questions in the Q&A feature at the left panel on your screen. The moderator for this panel discussion is Dominic Tan, Head of Innovation of Singapore Innovation Hub at SATS. We will invite our speakers back on screen as well. Over to you, Dominic.
Thank you, Alvin, and thank you, Andy and Shan. Hello, everybody. A little bit about me. I'm the head of innovation of Singapore Innovation Hub at SATS. SATS is a global gateway passenger service company as well as a food solutions company. You might know us for some of the work we've done for Singapore Airlines and a number of other airlines, hubbed in Singapore, but also in Tokyo, India, in the region. But we are also actually a large food solutions company, providing not just for aviation, but for the whole of the armed forces, for retail, hospitality, and a lot. The role of the SATS Global Innovation Center, in which there are 2 hubs in Singapore and the UK, is to really help drive innovative food solutions, but with a particular angle around sustainability practices. And so we do that by partnering with our internal business units of culinary, product development, our clients, to launch new products into market that have that need. So some of the work that we are focusing on are sustainable practices around packaging design, as well as new food trends like alternative proteins. And previously, before that, I was a practitioner of design thinking at IDEO in New York, in Shanghai, as well as doing in-house roles around the world. So it's a real pleasure to meet everybody, and also welcome any questions you have for the panel to me. So we have some string of questions coming in. I will try to synthesize them, and I'll start with some more macro ones, more strategic level, and then there's some good operational feasibility, logistical questions at the tail end, right? And I think we have about 10-ish minutes for this panel, right? So some of the questions for both parties, Shan and Andy, are around classic challenges, right? What are some of the questions what are some of the challenges for Shan in starting and educating people around ugly foods that you need to come at the start? But then also, I mean, I think we can layer on the context, particularly with both work focus on Asia and the region. Maybe I'll letter that question to both parties on what are Asia-specific challenges that are unique that we can learn from both sides, and then also maybe what are one key lesson or tip on how you overcome that based on each other's context.
Perhaps I can start first. So maybe more pertaining to when I started, some of the key challenges, actually just in terms of starting a business. So back then when we were just graduated, we really wanted to keep our costs low. And one of the most simple thing was just finding a food facility that was actually food certified by SFA and to produce our items. And that's how we overcome is actually through collaboration with a restaurant that actually have some spare space and some downtime. So actually that's where we produce our items. But at the same time, how we overcome challenges in terms of perception is really reaching out, and the more we show our face in the community, then it actually creates the impression that we are here and that there's an organization called Ugly Food trying to change perceptions. And it's really through our repetitive appearances that slowly people get to change their perception of ugly produce. And that's how we can see also through more interviews, requests from schools in secondary schools all the way to JC level to interview us about our project, because they also want to start something or do something about it within their schools.
All right, I'll answer some of the key challenges. The key challenges to us are at different levels. Even building one business unit in a foreign country, let's say Cambodia, being a developer in Cambodia is already tough. All right, and what we've done is we just have to go in. And 3 years of working in Cambodia, this word that we all got to learn that's maneuverability. All right, we got to maneuver and to find out best ways to do certain things. All right, so building one business unit is tough. Next, we engage in 4 business units. All right, and then the 4 business units each are different businesses. So it's a Herculean effort. It requires a large team. So behind me, I really have at least 80 people doing what we are doing today. And it's really to forge not just 4 independent business units, which is the hotel side, the farming, the food processing, and the retail side. It's not just building these 4 units, but linking them. All right, and that's one of the key challenges now is to link these 4 business units to complete that Rplus ecosystem that I spoke about. To overcome them, I don't think there's any easy way. I think it's to keep working at it, and to with the blessings of technology today, I think we are at the part of the hype cycle where the technologies are now available and are in a mature state for us to employ.
Great, thank you. I'll speak very briefly from a SATS perspective, because we are predominantly a B2B company partnering with clients on helping them break through on innovation. A lot of it is related to how they actually see their overall sustainability and innovation agenda. That has to be really driven at the highest level to really understand what are their goals, what are the benchmarks, and not how they're reacting and responding to the market or to competition. So that is what we're trying to do to make sure we get that strategic alignment. And then the other point is really around the fragmentation of information and also some misinformation around sustainable practices. For example, just because a packaging is bamboo sourced does not make it the most sustainable if it's highly bleached. And if it's a single-use plastic, if the country, like say in Europe, has actually the infrastructure to process that may be actually a better option than some other more perceived by sustainable options. Okay. I'm looking again. Thank you a lot for all the questions. I'm just trying to make sure that we get a good. A common theme around the questions are around how we use technology to better improve the systems. So from the farming and understanding, the farm sources to patients, understanding how data and technology is to improve the understanding of the quality of your resources or sources of produce, particularly from your partners. Maybe in the essence of time, can we talk about one use of technology from either parties that's been most fundamental for your business?
Sure. Prashant first.
I think Andy can go there. We do not focus so much on technology.
All right. I think technology for us it's a given, and the deployment of the technology now it's a matter of choice. There are IoT sensors out there you can buy from Alibaba. A pack of sensors, 12 sensors for $16. You can connect it to a Raspberry computer for $90. I think the technology is out there. I think the challenge for us is how then do we use it? What are we monitoring? And who can use all these IoT farm sensors? For example, we've got farms. Look, if we can deploy the sensors, fine. But what are we saving? We're saving manpower in a land where manpower is abundant. All right. So the choice of technology then would then go upstream. I think upstream would then help us to decide what do we do use these technologies. So it's a given. So a hydroponic farm in Taiwan would already have technology as compared to the rice farms in Cambodia. Simple mechanization, and that already increased yields by at least 2 to 4 times. So we take it that technology is given. What we're trying to do now, like any fourth industrial revolution, is to link it up. Right? So we are developing a few things that could make the app more meaningful, that would derive data and analyzed in a way that is useful for us with a better outcome. So we are setting the outcomes. For example, through the app, we can reduce your carbon footprint. So that's a key motivation for us using and steering our choice of technology.
Peshan, if you don't have any bills for technology, very quickly from SATS, we invest in the culinary food development. So we have food technicians, food nutritionists. We also invest in the latest types of technology related to insights and data, not just from this input and ingestions of sources across different methodologies, from social listening to trends to consumer panels, but also the software layer that helps make it organized and smarter. And we also just invest in physical technology. So in my innovation studio, we have the full suite of prototyping equipment, print lab, laser cutters to be able to go through that cycle of design thinking very quickly and get things into a prototype form, ready to cook and be able to test it. Okay. How do we, there are questions around understanding the different contexts of the region. So I see some questions around which countries in the region are most suitable for some of your businesses versus others. Questions around Rplus, around Singapore context, Cambodia being, what's the point of view of Cambodia? And then also maybe Peshan, maybe from your end, where do you see yourself going next from beyond Singapore?
All right. I'll just answer the simple ones first. All right. Rplus memberships are suitable for Singapore context. Yes, they're suitable for any context. Essentially, members will sign up as members, and they can help with funds that the members inject through memberships. We can help any farm. So helping a farm in Singapore is no different from helping a farm in Cambodia, in the sense that, look, in Singapore, we are solving city-state problems. In Cambodia, we are solving even more basic problems. So being a member, we will help allocate, and of course, being a transparent process of what goes to where, we can divert the resources to definitely places that need it. So that's the question on whether Singapore is suitable. For the hospitality side, overseas it's fantastic. Any spectacular location you can find we will be able to make the farm, the resource cycle happen there also. So this Rplus model is seen as a platform to plug in rather than location specific and region specific.
Thank you. For myself, looking at this question, I think the first part I also like to highlight is for my direction in Food Warrior, one part is a lot about educating the future leaders, which is within schools. And in Singapore, there's the eco stewardship program, which highlights about importance of environment within schools. So one key part for next step within Singapore is how I can use my Food Warrior initiative to create to empower youths in their own schools to start initiatives to campaign while learning business skills, so that in the future, if they were to want to start something new, they already have some background and some experience and will not need to experience as much mistakes as I made when I just started out. And also about where else I'd like to go next. I think through this time and age and through this, like what we're seeing now, which is webinar series, I've been given a privilege to also give sharings and talks for Malaysian audience. So I think it's a lot about how I can collaborate with similar organizations such as neighboring countries in Malaysia to learn more about our food waste. I think firstly for myself, it's really about understanding what is happening on the ground first before I actually can provide new initiative. And I also like to highlight that I learned a lot from Andy and how he can manage to explore so many countries, and it really opens my eyes to this. Yes.
We're happy to include all partners, whether it's SETS or Patient's initiative. Is definitely a platform where we can definitely grow together. I think the education portion is one thing, right? Even to get city dwellers that no part of the food or fruit is wasted. All right. So even for initiative programs like that, I think there's so much we can do together. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wait, I see Alvin back on, so maybe that's a sign that we need to be. Thank you so much for all the questions. I'm sorry we couldn't get to many of them. I wonder whether there's an opportunity for individuals to follow up with us with our contact details to address some of the specific questions. Alvin?
I'm on screen. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you very much, Shan, Andy, and Dominic, once again for your views. Wonderful synergy between the three of you. Excellent. Thank you for your views on how we can meet our future food needs through innovative design and design thinking. Now we have come to the end of this second keynote session. Thank you to our speakers and to all attending this webinar for your active participation today. Please click on the info button on your screen to submit a rating out of 5 stars and your feedback before exiting this session or joining the next one. During the break, check out our key partners on demand technology showcases by selecting 22nd September under the agenda drop-down list. You can also chat, secure a virtual one-to-one meeting, or request for a callback with exhibitors by clicking the Connect button in their profiles. If you're interested to speak to IPI tech experts, simply search for their names via the Attendees button. Stay tuned for the next program on Design Think Tank presentations by participating challenge owners, Gloob, Food Culture Singapore, and SAO Foundation at 1 p.m. Singapore time. We'll see you then.